guys, thanks for showing up. Sorry we're a little late. There's a lot of technical stuff going on. Um, Turns out it's hard to get 4 and 5 different phones synced up when everyone in the world is on the internet. So, my name is Chris Mara. I own Welcome to 1979 with Yoli Mara. We're shut down due to the mandate, so I'm walking around an empty studio. But let's get started. Anytime you have questions, just jump in with a comment, and Yoli, who's running the whole show on a laptop, will feed those to us. But let's get started. I'm going to flip this around. So we do 4 things here. We do Mara Machines, which is the world's largest analog tape machine restoration company. Will Tyson runs that. Yoli, if you can jump Will up to the screen, we'll see if this works. There's Will. Hey, Will.
Hey.
So this is Will Tyson. Will, how long have you been with Mara Machines?
Coming up on 3 years, right? Or just over 3 years.
Cool. And what does Mara Machines do? What's the day to day, or what's the overall objective of Mara Machines?
Yeah, so we restore and refurbish and kind of modify MCI JH110s and JH24 reel-to-reel tape machines. It's a labor of love.
Okay. So we restore machines and sell them with warranties and
Yeah, warranties and everything. Yeah.
Cool. How many machines did you restore last year and sell?
55 last year, which I think is the most from what I was told.
Okay. So, and we'll get more into Mara Machines later, but we'll talk about all the different machines we do and all that. So if you have questions for Will, save them up. Thank you, Will. The next thing we do is we're, believe it or not, a recording studio. This is a nice little gallery we have when we do tours to let people know all the things we do. Yoli, do you want to pop yourself up to the screen? We'll talk about the studio a little bit. There you go. Hey, Yoli.
Hi.
We're getting better at this. So this is Yoli Mara, co-founder and owner and all-around badass for Mara Machines, Welcome to 1979, and Welcome to 1979 Industries, which we'll see. So Yoli, what do you do? What's your role?
What is my role? I kind of just keep all the different various businesses rolling and handle a lot of the daily operations. So make sure people are paying their bills and tape machines are rolling out, and a lot on the plating side of things, which I'll talk about later.
Okay, cool. And you do a lot of the, you help book the studio a lot too. I know we work together well on that. So, and you do more of the complex bookings, right? I do the bands, easy stuff, but you do the, if it's a larger event or a video shoot or something, you handle all that. Cool, awesome. Well, let's move down to mastering. So we do the first 2 of 3 steps of making a vinyl record. And the first step involves Maggie. This is called vinyl mastering. We do digital mastering and vinyl mastering. So you're looking at a photo of our lathe. You'll actually see the real thing in a minute. I'm sure Yoli's trying to pop Maggie up onto the screen.
I'm here, I think.
While she does, we can talk about questions. Look at this. This is how a record is made, and there are 23 steps. 22, I'm sorry, 22 steps. So I'm going to scan this real quick, and then we'll have a quiz later. Okay, so you guys just pay attention to that, and then we'll quiz on it later. So I don't see Maggie popping up on the screen. Might be a technical thing. But we'll visit her in a minute, a little bit later. So we do vinyl mastering here. And the second step of making a vinyl record is called electroplating or electroforming or galvanics, depending on where you are in the world. So we're the only place in the country that you can send a WAV file to, a digital file. We can cut a lacquer, and we can ship metal parts to anywhere in the world. So that's a real unique prospect for us. Oh, Maggie says she can see me and hear me, so I don't know if she's on the broadcast or not, but we'll figure it out. So let's just get started on the tour, and as Yoli can add people in, she will. So we just walked through this wall. I was standing over here. That's Mar Machines. This is the studio here. This is the top floor. So this is a nice time to talk about the building itself. The building was built in 1953 as a record pressing plant. It's 33,000 square feet. We lease about 14,000 square feet. Everything on this side of the wall we call industries. That's where the offices are, that's where Mar Machines is, and everything over here is the studio, and it's upstairs and downstairs. So this is about 3,500 square feet here. It's a nice long hallway. We have about 100 places to plug microphones in, so we can use the studio in all kinds of different ways. The building owner in 1953 built it as a pressing plant, and we've learned a lot about the building through people that live in the neighborhood that used to work here, stop by from time to time. His business model was to press pirated records. So he'd steal music and press records. So from a business standpoint, it was brilliant, pure profit. From a morality standpoint, pretty low in the totem pole. So this is our control room, and we'll bring Yoli back into the fold here in a second. So this is our control room. It's rather large. This is about 1,400 square feet, and it's a bigger control room than you'll find. A lot of the recording space is below us. Hey, Yoli. And we can see them via the screen here. So we can see the tracking floor, which we'll walk down to. The center screen is the vocal booth, and the left screen is a piano room up here. And that left screen can go to a room we have downstairs with another piano. So we've got a vintage MCI console here. The Pro Tools rig is at my house. I was doing mix tweaks this morning for an artist in Australia. We record on tape a lot, but one of the misnomers about the place is that we only record on tape. We've got a 32 IO Pro Tools rig. We're digital all the time. We're tape all the time. We've got a good amount of outboard gear. You can check that out. Dave Egerholm says, hey, that's cool. Thanks, Dave. Hope we're getting a lot of comments and Q&As and stuff. So, let me see. What can we talk about with the studio? So, from a business standpoint, we formed the studio in 2008. So we've been around a little while. I was a freelance recording engineer for about a decade before that, and just decided to open a tracking space, which in the current crisis, we kind of shut down foot traffic here about 2 weeks ago. We canceled a lot of sessions. We had a lot of people traveling here. They canceled. So we, just for public health, shut down sessions a couple weeks ago. So we definitely miss people. So we appreciate everyone chiming in. And then last week, we just spread everyone that worked here out in their own rooms and did really big distancing. The nice thing about recording studios and large ones is they all have their own HVAC systems and everyone has their own bathroom. So from a safety standpoint, it's really safe. And then yesterday we were shut down in Nashville. So it's just me here walking around. Yoli, are there questions coming in? Can you read off some questions or just a lot of comments?
I do not have any questions coming in at the moment. If you want to pan around how big the control room is, we can talk about some of the events we do when it's
yeah, that's a great So
when we're not distancing, we like to do a lot of events and community building at the studio. So we have a big recording summit where we bring in 40 speakers from around the country and 60 attendees, and do a weekend-long recording workshop. We do 2 tape camps a year, which are hands-on analog recording workshops, which we have a couple that we are rescheduling for later in the summer. What else?
Yeah, I mean, and this shutdown kind of gave us a good opportunity to go back to our core values, which are education and community. It seems like community is a little bit stronger now because we're all in the same boat. But yeah, we do that. We do tape camps, recording summit, which all you can find on our website. But I don't really want to get into a whole lot of that. The console, if you got some people like gear, this thing was made in 1978. It's an MCI 428, which you've heard this console, may not have heard of it, but albums like Back in Black and a lot of the Bee Gees stuff and stuff Eric Clapton did in the Florida Keys and Hotel California are cut on this model of console. And we took it a step further. It's totally restored, but we kept the original mic pre here, and we added an API pre to each channel, and you can switch that while you're listening to the source. So that's kind of fun. Engineers really like it. And then we have a 10-channel Trident sidecar, Trident 80 sidecar. So we've got 38 channels here of wonderful restored vintage console. Why don't I walk around the tracking space a little bit, Yoli? Do you have anything else to add, Yoli?
I just do, and we actually just had a question come in. Oh, hold on, from Scott Hoffman. I'll pop it up on.
Right.
Everyone still have the slide for get down to the slide.
So, one of the things that I like about owning the studio is once we kind of got a lot of the gear we needed, then it turned into let's have some fun. So in this, I just walked out of the control room. We hang a left, and you can go downstairs via this slide. So this goes all the way downstairs. And one thing I love is this world we live in, you can buy anything. So I had an actual street sign made that says, "No recording equipment, musical instruments, or drinks on slide, please." So, and we got a nice stainless steel handle, and this thing gets used a lot. It didn't take us long, probably only a day or two of sessions where we had a miscommunication before someone said they wanted to do a slide, and I thought they meant a slide guitar overdub. So I opened up a track and got ready to go, and they just went down the slide. So we can do the slide, or we can walk down the stairs. And I should have mentioned it earlier, but if you're cooped up, why don't you walk with me? Just stand up and walk around your apartment or your house. Two things that will do: one will get you kind of moving a little bit, and it will also give you a sense of space about our studio. It's very hard to experience it unless you're here, so why not just walk around with me? So we're still upstairs. We have a overdub room here. We can stick guitar amps in. As you can see, this is part of our social distancing. We set up a Mara machine shop in here, but we stick guitar amps in here, and you can be in the control room for guitar overdubs. This is our game room. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but out in the hallway there's shuffleboard, but we have got a vintage pinball machine, jukebox, and foosball, and a bar.
Chris, can I rewind you for a minute? We have a console question.
Oh, right. Does the
Popped it up
sidecar...
there.
Right. So Jesse wants to know if the sidecar, that Trident 80 sidecar, integrates to the MCI, or is it functional like external pre's? The answer is a little bit of both. The 10-channel sidecar has its own buses. It has 6 buses, so it can operate independently, and we just patch it to either 2 channels of the console, or it also has direct outs. So a lot of times we'll put all the keyboards, like piano, both pianos, Worley, Rhodes, B3, all in the Trident sidecar, have them bust out, and you can just unmute what you want to record. Or we'll put all the drums over there, and you can still bust toms and then have direct outs patched into the tape machine or Pro Tools. So it's really flexible. We've even used it for mix downs. You could put a lot of things there and have 2 channels of that coming into some echo returns of the console. So it's the best of both worlds. The aux ends and stuff aren't tied together because they're 2 different consoles, but it works really well. Moving on to some fun things. Oh, you got another question, Yoli?
I've got a slide-related question as well.
Oh, of course.
Go.
Do we ever record sources from one end of the slide to the other? Yes. So let me show you something real quick. So we have this headphone system right here. It's the PowerPlay 16, which we can patch into, right? So 16 channels can get patched in from Pro Tools or tape. And what we do is we select what we want, like a vocal, and solo it. And then this has direct out, like a line out, and we can go into an amplifier and blast it down the slide and put a microphone. So to date, we've done vocals reamped, we've done guitars, drums, and then we've done it acoustically too. We had a whole choir singing at the top of the slide into a microphone at the bottom of the slide. So we use it a lot for that. One thing I've learned is to use cheap microphones, because we were going to use an 87 one day, and I said, I'll just grab a 57. And after we got done with the vocal pass, the drummer jumped on the slide, slid down, and like took out the 57. So if it would have been one of my vintage 87s, I would have been a little upset. So great question. Back to fun things. Slides are fun, but we have a bar when we have parties, and we have coolers. So we usually do like a bring your own beer. We have a beer check. This is fun. We built a blender out of a Mara machine for a golf tournament, and the top is big enough to put booze, which is kind of fun. The place gets rented a lot for photo shoots, so this was a phone booth we just acquired, and it's great for, quarantining, self-quarantining. I can't even fit in there with holding the phone. So let's go downstairs and walk with me if you can. I know it's cheesy, but let's move a little, and I'll show you where the slide comes out, and we'll take a quick tour. And we're almost to mastering, so imagine the virus.
All right, Chris, while you're walking up in the field, there's another question about Tape Camp, wondering, with the virus stuff, what was happening with Tape Camp. We actually were supposed to have Tape Camp this coming weekend and the following weekend, 2 spring ones that were sold out. And we had already rescheduled them actually before a week ago. So we've got them on hold until hopefully early summer, depending on how things go. And we'll continue moving forward with scheduling them twice a year, starting again in the fall. So.
You still there, Yoli?
Still there.
I kind of lost your audio. Hopefully everyone else didn't lose your audio.
Oh.
But not if you're fin. I'll keep going. Okay, so this is where the slide comes out, and we have a big, huge beanbag. And then this is our artist lounge. So the idea at the bottom, downstairs, is the artists go to the front door and just come and go as they please. No receptionist or anything like that. So it's kind of like that's the front door. So you just come and go as you please. Here's our tracking room. That's where I came from, up the stairs to the right. Artist lounge. Kitchen's over there. So Yoli's got Jeremy up in there. So
Right. That's right.
This is our main tracking floor. And Jeremy is one of our assistant engineers, and he runs our tape archiving department. So we walk here. If you have any technical questions, we can talk together about that, because Jeremy is outside engineers, so he gets to see a lot more setups than I do. I engineer here my own projects, and I do things the way I do them, but outside engineers do things all different ways. So here's our main tracking floor. We typically put drums here, facing this way, and across the hall through that window would be the singer. And we put a bass player here, guitar player, keys kind of right in there, another guitar player. We also have a place you can put drums back here. This is our 70s dead room. We usually tuck drums kind of in the corner, and then they can see the band out there. We did this with Old Crow Medicine Show, right? Where Jerry, the drummer, was in here, and he was looking out there. We had the whole band in a big oval, which was a lot of banjos. Jeremy, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Chris, what's up?
Okay, I can't hear you, but we'll just kind of continue as we go.
Nothing?
I'm waiting to go live.
Says I'm live right now. Nothing, Chris? Can't hear me?
Okay, cool. So this is the vocal booth. Sorry about that pause. I had a thing on my screen that says I'm waiting to go live. So just realized via text that I'm still live. So we have it set up where the singer can see the whole band, and they can change their lighting really easily. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, can you hear me this time?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome.
Cool. So this is Jeremy Bernstein. We meant to introduce him earlier, but I forgot. But he's awesome. He assists on sessions here, especially the high-level ones, and he handles our tape archiving, which we'll get to in a little while. So I think you could hear me, Jeremy. Did I miss anything as far as like basic setups of the studio and all that? Let me fix my hair.
I think one thing is just that pretty much any space in the entire studio is set up that we can record in. It's not uncommon for us. We've put fiddle in the hallway, right by
True.
the entrance. Really, any place is fair grounds for us to record.
Right, because we put fiddle here so that they look to the right. Oh, let me flip it up. Look to the right, they see the singer. Look to the left, they see the band. We put horns here too, so we can put a 44 right here. And then we get the nice dead part of here. You can even hear my voice kind of echo in the entryway here. So it's surprising to me how many rooms sound great. Even like we mentioned, we've been here 12 years, and 2 weeks ago we did drums in two places I'd never done drums before, which is great. We did them in the vocal booth upstairs and in the hall right by the slide. So, and they sounded amazing. So, we just walked past the vocal booth. This is one room we stick guitar amps in. And Jeremy, do you want to talk about this box right here? What does this do?
Yeah. So those are radial SGI boxes, and basically it allows us to pass through our guitar signals from the live room over to the amplifier in an isolation booth. And by converting it to a balanced microphone signal, it allows us to run long cable runs without losing high end, without the signal basically losing fidelity. So our players can stay in the live room. All the electric guitar players can stay in the live room, just plug in their output of their pedal board into the SGI in the live room, and
Right
that
here?
passes it through over to their amp in the isolation booth.
Yeah. So we have 3 of those, so they can be plugged in there. And if they have a head and cab, we've got long speaker cables. So those SGIs plugged into here, into another booth here, which are huge. These are big guitar rooms. And then lastly is what used to be my office, but I never use it anymore, except for at parties, because we have an SGI in here, right around the corner for amps. And we have an awesome piano. So we have another upright piano upstairs and this one downstairs. We have a camera so we can see this room too. Right?
Yeah. And we'll set them both up. A lot of sessions we'll set both
Yes.
pianos up. They got different tones. This one downstairs is a little brighter, a little more aggressive. And the one upstairs is probably better for ballads, typically. Softer
Right.
touch.
Yeah, and they can choose depending on the song instead of wondering what it sounds like. They just play it. We used to have a Steinway brand, and no one hardly ever used it because it didn't really fit into the rock and Americana scene that we do here. So, well, cool. I'm going to show you the kitchen, and we'll go to mastering. So, hey, I got somebody who's supposed to be here tomorrow. Yeah, sorry about that. Yoli, why don't you kick Maggie into the screen? I'll show everyone this. This is our kitchen and lounge. And you can see we have a lot of fun artwork around here. A question we get a lot is this a real Van Gogh? The answer is no, unfortunately. But if it was, I would still be saving up for the frame. And I'd probably find a better place for it than above the sink. One of my favorite bands gave me this Last Supper rug as a gift. I've never really seen one before. And then this is our kitchen. And hopefully Maggie will be popping up. So this is a little bit of construction going on.
Can you guys hear me?
We had a little bit of a downtime last week with social distancing, so we decided to tear apart our mastering room and redesign it, which we were halfway through. This is our mastering room that Maggie runs. We have another cutting engineer named Anna who comes in. She works nights. This is a restored Neumann VMS 70 cutting lathe. Okay. Maggie is in.
Here,
Can't see her. Oh, there she is. Well,
hey, hi.
hey, Maggie.
Hi, Shell. Talk persist.
Hey.
That was in reference to the Norway guy. Anyway. Yeah. Hey, Chris. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, cool. So I guess I'm just going to talk about mastering because I don't know what happened to Chris's feed. I can't hear him or anything. So basically, that Neumann that he showed you is what I cut the lacquer masters on, which are used to then make the stampers that are used to press records. So basically, that machine helps me do everything that I need to do in terms of getting you your records. That particular Neumann machine was made in 1973. Most of the machines, oh, it's back. Cool, awesome. I have something to look at. So they haven't changed really. There's not that many of them left in the world, and pretty much all vinyl mastering engineers use those lathes to cut the lacquer masters. The lacquers that we cut on are this, it's not a PVC like your record, it's an aluminum disc with nitrocellulose acetate lacquer on top. And the noise floor is pretty low, so we can get quieter cuts than if we were cutting straight to PVC. So, and there's the lathe again. So the room's in kind of a disarray right now because one, I took a bunch of gear with me home so I could work from home, and also because I'm in the process of reorganizing the room and helping it basically be set up more optimally sonically. Having a lathe in the room makes it kind of hard to kind of have to build everything around it. So I chose to keep the lathe where it was and basically just move pieces of gear and the speakers around the room. So I'm currently in the process of making that happen. I started last weekend, and of course then they're like, we can't come back to work. So so that's what I'm doing in that space. On the right side of the thing that has the platter is a rack, and that basically has de-essers. We call them acceleration limiters on that particular piece of gear because it basically helps prevent high-end distortion in the lacquers. So they're on the top. The lathe is not on at the moment, but they're on the top of that rack. And then there's the platter and the pitch box, and the pitch box helps determine the spacing between the grooves, along with some computer parts that are in the little cabinet thing at the bottom there. And let's see, what else? The styli are right, on the cutter head. So that's what's actually being used to cut the lacquers. They're tiny, tiny, tiny little gemstones that are either made of sapphire or ruby or even diamond, and they're heated, and then that actually can cut into the nitrocellulose acetate. And we have helium to help prevent that from getting too hot, because if it gets too hot, it can catch on fire, which, yes, that's bad. So, so I don't know if Chris, do you want to show them a lacquer? That'd be kind of fun, so they can
Sure.
see. Yeah. Hey.
Great. I walked too far into your bunker. So here's a lacquer right here.
Yeah.
This is
So that's
cut on. So
that's a scrap one. They come blank, obviously, because if they already had grooves on them, that would not be helpful. So the other side's blank, and so I use them for those are tests. So like something must have happened to it, or it got scratched or something, and so I do test cuts before I cut the masters to make sure that everything sounds okay, there's no distortion, the needle doesn't skip, all that sort of stuff. And then I cut the masters, because you can't play the masters. As I said before, since it's not PVC and it's not quite as robust a material, if I played that lacquer, it would not sound as good after plating. So I see I have a question from John Furr about the lacquer supply. So we're fine. Yeah. So the Apollo, there's two main companies that make lacquers. One is Apollo, or was Apollo, and that's the one that had the fire in California, that was extremely sad when that happened, not just because the acted of fire and everything, but the history and the history of that building and the history of the lacquers and everything. So unfortunately, now there's only one other company that makes lacquers, and that's in Japan. And what's fortunate though is from our side of things, and I cannot speak at all to any other cutting engineer. I'm only speaking about myself and 1979. We're fine because most of the lacquers we've been using have been MDC, which is the other company. So on just from my perspective at my studio, we're fine. You'd have to ask other cutting engineers how they're doing. So yeah. Cool. Yeah. Microscope.
What's this thing?
So that's like kind of a microscope that's engineered to, or I guess it's not really a microscope, but a little an eye reticule or something. That when I need to change the styli, I basically have to put that cutter head, that triangle shaped thing over there, into that device, flip it over. Oh, you're welcome, John. And take it out with little tools, and it's kind of like a jeweler's situation. It's very delicate, and obviously it's just a tiny little fleck of gem on a tiny little metal shaft, so it can very easily get ruined. So it's a very precarious process, and it takes a while, and sometimes the styles aren't good, so you have to try another one, or it only lasts for so long, and all sorts of stuff. So sometimes it's easy, and other times it's a bit more complex. So and you can get, I mean, I've gotten as little as 3 hours out of one styli, and that means 3 hours of cutting, up to about, I don't know, 22 hours. I try not to run them to the ground because the grooves start to not look so great. So that microscope I use to look at the grooves to make sure they're okay. So after I cut the lacquer master, I take a swipe, I run that microscope over it, and I look at all the grooves to make sure there aren't any, there's dust or debris or scoring. So if the stylet is too hot, it can kind of mess up the edges of the grooves, just to make sure everything's okay, nothing's touching. So it's 250 times magnification. So you can see a 2 mil groove very up close, and it's pretty interesting if you haven't seen the grooves.
Let's see if we can see a groove.
Yeah.
Why not? Right?
It's already hard enough even with your eye. So let's see how the phone does it.
Let me focus it real quick.
Okay, well, while Chris is doing that, I can talk more about pretty much anything. So, do you guys have any questions about mastering for vinyl? This is the time to ask me anything. So, something that I can just throw out there, if you're delivering me masters to cut, to do a flat cut, so I'm not doing any pre-mastering, so I'm not getting it ready for any other formats. You basically already have the files mastered and you're just giving them to me to cut onto a record. If possible, it'd be great if you could take the limiter off at the very end. So unless the limiter is adding a lot of color or a certain style that you like, I would suggest taking that off or backing it off by quite a bit. Because if you think about it, the styli is tracing a waveform, and if you have a lot of like clipped off limited waveforms, in theory, it would be harder for the styli to trace those on a groove. So you're talking a digital to analog sort of thing. So if you can, send me files that don't have the limiter at the end of them. So if your mastering engineer can just export, one with a limiter for all your digital files, and then just take that off and send me unlimited files for cutting, that would be great. Do you prefer to get digital files? I can do both. Obviously, sometimes people have a mastering engineer that they like working with, and I'm obviously not going to be like, you should have sent it to me, whatever. So I can, like I was saying, work with files that come from another mastering engineer. I would just kind of ask, like, if possible, to send them. Oh, there's some grooves. Yeah, so there's grooves. Those are kind of dirty, so you can tell it's a scrap lacquer because there's dust and all sorts of junk on it. But that gives you an idea of what things look like. But back to your question, Bronco. So I can work with any files. I like having the ability to work on things from the very beginning, mainly because while I'm mastering, I can take into account that I'm going to be cutting it. And I also have the benefit of having the lathe. So if I wanted to, I could even do test cuts on your audio before I was done and ready to cut it. So yes, I can definitely work with files that I've been given. I can also work from tape too. If you guys have the tape, I have the ability to do a transfer from tape because we have a preview head on our Studer. But I do enjoy, for multiple reasons, Pete. I do prefer doing the mastering from the beginning. Yeah, so great question from Pete Lyman here. Do I prefer 27 or 28 minute sides? Actually 30. I like round numbers, so 30 is great. That's tend to what I like. No, Pete, he's being a little facetious. So basically, you're limited, pun intended, a lot by the volume and frequency content and the actual physical space of the record. All comes into play in terms of getting a good cut. So ideally, if you, for example, gave me a 27-minute side, one, I'd have to use up the entire space of the disc. And we've all heard about inner groove distortion on a record, which means that little tiny center part, I'd be cutting into that. So I try to avoid that if I can get a record loud enough and sounding good enough. I try to not cut into the last half an inch in the center on the ruler. But with a 27-minute side, I would have to, in order to get it to be loud enough to be louder than the noise floor. So you wouldn't have basically the loudest cut you can have. And I'd already have to turn it down a lot to get it to fit onto the record. So, multiple problems with that. And since you'd be in that last, half an inch, you'd end up with a lot of you could end up with high frequency distortion or high frequency loss. So ideally, if I could cut a 18-minute side, if every side I could get was 18 minutes long, that'd be perfect. But I can cut a pretty loud and pretty decent cut, I would say up to 22 minutes. That's kind of where I start to be like, even a little louder or longer, depending on the audio content. So great question, Pete.
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
So Mike asks, if you get digital files, is there a preferred sample rate and bit depth? So I'm assuming you're talking about digital files that I'm going to be mastering. I'd prefer, ideally, the highest sample rate that you've been working with the whole time. So if you've been recording and mixing at 44, don't upsample to 96 just for me. If I need to do that, I'll do that on my end. And 24-bit in this day and age, space is cheap, so to speak. So 24-bit, we should all be doing 24-bit recording. So anything 24-bit, 44 kilohertz, 48, 96, that's all fine. Yeah. So I see Chris has started walking again, so I'm gonna stop rambling. And
No, I wasn't trying
yeah.
to. It wasn't the music at the Grammys getting louder or
Oh yeah.
anything like that.
So
but
yeah. Oh, one more thing, and then I'll let Chris have his show back. So basically, the website has we're updating the website. So if you go to welcome-to1979.com, there's a new mastering section, and there's also a new and expanded section on our tape services, particularly Analog Anywhere, which is something that I work in conjunction with Jeremy with. So if you have a mix that you want to run to tape, basically print it to tape, and then have me do the mastering, we can make that happen. So take a look at our website, and there's more information there now. So yeah.
Awesome, Maggie. Thanks so much, and thanks for the questions.
Yeah. And thanks, guys.
And we plan to do more of these breakouts as the days continue that we can't work. And I think Maggie and I do like a one-on-one question, mastering deep dive. So we'll come back around for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah. See you later.
Yeah, and Yoli, if you could kick Jeremy back up into the feed, we're gonna walk over. I was kind of showing everyone some space I didn't really talk about before. We've got a restroom up here and a little kind of hang space here. This is great. A lot of bands use this for photos and stuff, video content while they're recording. There is a lot of downtime for different members of the band, so it's a great way to get some video content while the bass player isn't doing anything musically, right? Waiting for the next song to queue up and all that. This is our transfer suite, and Jeremy will probably log on here in a second.
I'm
So
here.
we
I'm
built
live.
this room. We
Chris.
do a lot of tape archiving and restoration. So we launched this about August of last year. We made a room where we've got a tape machine set up that will. Oh, good. Jeremy's here. I can't hear him or see him, but I'll stop talking here in a second, and I'll let him take it from here. Well, I'll keep talking, I guess. So this is this machine is set up for 2-inch 16 or 2-inch 24 or 1-inch 8-track. There's Jeremy.
Hey. Sorry about that.
No problem. I do think I was doing a FaceTime earlier today for some mix tweaks, and it kept dropping. So I think everyone is on the internet right now. So yeah, why don't you walk us through what we got going on here, Jeremy?
Yeah. So that's our new B room transfer suite, and we're set up to do basically 1-inch 8-track, 2-inch 16. We do a lot of 8 and 16 track in there. We can do 24 track. And then we've also got a few consumer grade machines over there for quarter track transfers, or maybe some slower tape speeds, 7.5 IPS, 3 3/4 IPS on some of those consumer grade machines. Every few times, maybe every few months, we'll get these really cool little small, like 4 or 5-inch reels that were a lot of them are letters from home, from maybe the Vietnam War or different wars, where soldiers were across seas and could record little memos that they would send back home to their families and loved ones. And a lot of times we'll use the consumer machines for those transfers because they won't.
Yeah, like this one.
Better set up.
Yep.
Yeah, and those are
And-
pretty amazing transfers. I mean, very, very different than a musical transfer, but still, not everything we're archiving is necessarily music.
Right. Remember that that record we did, the walk-in record booth?
Yeah, that
from
was
the World
heavy.
War. Yeah, the World War II gentleman was, man, he was what, 20 years old, and just popped into one of those booths, recorded a little letter to home, kind of complained about he wasn't sure about his training, and then he was killed in action, what, a month later?
I think he
So-
said something. They taught us how to read maps to get there, but they didn't tell us what to do once we got there. Something along
Yeah.
those lines.
Yeah, it was me and you in the control room, and his grandson and his wife, and we were all. I'm not gonna lie, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Seriously.
Yeah.
So that's what Jeremy and I really get along well, and we like the art and the history behind restoring tapes. We get to hear a lot of really cool tapes and music, and just if anyone out there has a relative that has these tapes or records that were involved in the wartime, letters from home they're called, we do those for free. So just send them in. It's our part to bring families closer together and to be part of history. But behind you, Jeremy, is the tape machine that usually lives here.
Yeah.
So this room also, this room also works for what we call Analog Anywhere, right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yep. Yeah. So we have the Analog Anywhere process, which allows us to print your digital mixes to tape to our 2-track machine, this JH110 Mara machine, right here. So basically, you just send us your digital tape, or your digital mix, and let us know your sample rate, bit depth preferences, and we can print it to tape. Typically, we do 15 IPS, 1/4 inch tape, because we find that that's the most tape sounding of formats for this. But we can also, we've done some to 1/2 inch, 2-track. And yeah, it's pretty simple. We just basically attenuate the signal, typically run it through the console and run it through our faders, attenuate the signal so we're hitting our level to tape properly, and then just round trip out of converters, into converters, out of the tape machine.
So you record it on tape, rewind it, and play it back, or how does that work?
No, it's a round trip. So we're printing it onto the machine, onto the tape, and the output of the machine is straight into the converters, so captured right into Pro Tools Live.
Okay, cool, awesome. And then Jesse's got a question here. I have to be careful where I point the camera because we have a lot of tapes up there that have artist names. We sign NDAs on a lot of our stuff. more sensitive material and higher end artists. But he had a question about
Baking tape.
baking tapes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our bake station over there. We use these food dehydrators, which allow us to dehydrate and pull some of the moisture out on the tapes at a gentle temperature. Obviously, you wouldn't ever put a tape into a normal oven because that would destroy them. But basically, depending on the type of tape, both the formulation, whether it's Ampex or Scotch, as well as the width of the tape, that will determine how long we bake the tapes. And we've done enough transfers that we kind of know what formulations and what types of tapes need baking for how long.
So it's not just you bake tapes and do transfers.
No, there's more to it than that. If you were to just bake the tape blindly, you need to kind of put it through the paces and see how it's going on the transport of the machine. Because if it's really sticky and we haven't baked it properly or long enough, the mechanical side of the machine, it will kind of push and pull, and that's going to affect our transfer a lot. That's as important as the audio alignment or anything else. It's just making sure that the mechanics of the machine is running smoothly, so that if it's at 15 IPS, it's running at 15 IPS consistently for the full transfer.
And I'm going to guess that if you just put a tape on a machine, a lot of oxide comes off the tape onto the machine. That would affect the audio quality of the tape, right?
That is your audio. If I put the tape on the machine and I'm seeing it shed severely, and I'm seeing the oxide all over the deck plate, that as it's flaking off, I am losing audio. I'm losing most likely high frequency content.
And never to get it back, right?
Yeah, no, there's no way to get it back. Once it's off, it's off.
So John wants to know if we have a 1/4-inch 8-track Fostex. We do not have that. We have the only prosumer deck we have is a 1/2-inch 8-track, and as Jeremy mentioned, with this 1/4-track 2-inch, 1/4-track 1/4-inch machine. We do work with someone here in town that has all the formats we don't have, so we can be a source for all your transfers, right, Jeremy? And Jeremy, how many reels of tape do you think you've transferred in the 2 years you've been here?
In the year and a half that I've been there, I would say myself personally have transferred, I'd say myself alone, probably 600 reels. And as part of a team here, close to 1,000, if not above that.
So it's a hobby.
Started off as one.
Cool. No, and yeah, there you go. Well, great. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. I'm walking over to the other side we call industries. If you can kick Will Tyson up if he's around. If not, Jeremy and I can keep talking about Mara machines. But this is the hallway we started off in. We've got some Mara machines. These are what they look like when they come in. This is what they look like when they go out. There's Will. Mr. Tyson.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. So this is your domain here. This is Mara Machines, World Headquarters. So talk to us about what you do, Will. So you take these machines. Whoa. Do you fix machines for other people? What's the
Not typically. We tend to do the restorations. You go out and find them, or they find you, and then we tear them down, recap everything, repair anything that needs repairing, and then align them to our standards, and you sell them to clients who buy them either through one of our select vendors or through us directly.
Right. So here's a world map. Here's a U.S. map. Those are not Corona cases. Those are where our tape machines are. And this is the world map. Sorry. So they go all over the world, which is great. So to clarify, we sell restored tape machines, MCI, all formats, right? From 1/4-inch 2-track up to 2-inch 24-track. And they're all the same price. If you buy a 24-track from us, it's $9,000 every one of them, because they're all restored to the same quality. That allows us to have a dealer network. It's not this machine is this much and that machine is this much. We've been doing a lot more work to them, haven't we, Will? What's going on with this one right here?
Yeah, so that one had some deck paint issues, just pretty much cosmetic issues, but some type of corrosion or something got under the original powder coat. So we had a local guy strip it down and repaint the top of the chassis. Did a great job matching it up too.
Yeah, this one too. We brought a couple over. So when we get back from hiatus, we're going to put the motors back in it, put the motherboard back in it, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's we go pretty deep. I feel like taking the motherboard out, that's kind of the heart of the machine, and we go through completely and make sure all the joints are good.
Yeah, so that helps it pull tape better and more consistently. Yeah, one of the things that Will and I were talking about a couple weeks ago was, when MCI was building these in Fort Lauderdale, they were more machine built, and we're kind of phrasing it more. They're more hand built now. We take these all apart by hand soldered, a lot of joints that were machine soldered, wave soldered, and then we put them back together by hand and replace capacitors by hand. So these are more hand built, and the reason we do that is because we warranty them and they have lifetime support. So we want to have a good, a good product for people to have. It's something that the industry really needs, and we can tell because we're selling more and more of them. Here's a finished. Tell me about this machine over here, Will.
Which one is this? Oh, this is the half-inch 2-track.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, so this guy, half-inch 2-track with brand new Flux Repro, Flux magnetic heads, erase, record, and repro. That's that's something I guess you've been offering for a while, but it's probably one of the most hi-fi formats, that's at least common.
And what's this? What's that thing?
Oh yeah, it's got our new transformer balanced I/O. So MCI originally had, at least on the 110 C's and B's, were op amp balance or active balance, and we've made a card that you can swap between a transformer input and output, as well as the original active balance. So it gives it a little more analog mojo, a little more vibe, some harmonics, maybe a touch more distortion, but that good stuff that you're looking for.
Cool. And then, so what's up with this machine then? This looks like a 24 track, but only has 8 meters.
Yeah, this is actually a 1-inch 8-track. Correct. Yeah, that's the 8-track. I was making sure it wasn't our 1-inch 2-track.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's it's the same machine as the 24-track, but we've knocked it down to 8 tracks, which is one of the greatest things about these, is that any machine can be a 24-track or an 8-track or 16. Convenient, to say the least.
Yeah. So that you can just take the meters out and drop it down, and it's the same machine.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, and that allows us to be more efficient. We have a protocol for each machine, and that allows us to do the same thing. So we're not having to buy different parts for a 16-track versus a 24-track. So those efficiencies allow us to keep the prices in check. We really do want to be affordable for cool people to buy machines. I think as prices go, when this one's done, these 24 tracks are $9,000. And you don't have to work hard to spend that on a microphone. So our joke around the shop is this is the best dollar per pound in the industry. Well, cool, Will. I think we'll wrap up with walking into our electroplating shop. So if you remember correctly, Maggie handles the first step of making a vinyl record, and this is the second step. We take lacquers that are cut from all over. We even take them from Pete Lyman. I know, bad move, but we do. I'm just kidding. And we process them here. Normally there's 4 or 5 people running around here kicking out stampers, which are made for vinyl production. The lacquers come in, and if you remember, they have grooves on them. So these are playable, even though we don't play them. That lacquer right there gets cleaned here. You can even see some purple haze in there. Maybe that's where the band gets a name. It gets put on here. It gets sprayed with liquid silver, and then and then we carry it over here. To our pre-plate system, which kind of gets the lacquer warmed up and acclimated, and then it gets put into here, which has a rectifier that pumps electricity. Lacquer gets placed here. I'm using Yoli's phone, so I know she doesn't want me to drop it. There's nickel pellets there. That's nickel sulfamate. It's just a conduit. So the electrical current that's going on here dissolves these nickel pellets to a molecular level, tiny, and it travels trying to get to the aluminum in the lacquer and lands in the groove. And after about an hour to an hour and a half, hi John Crivet, how you doing? We get this. So this is a nickel plate. So this is the back side. You can even see the grooves in there. So there's two parts together there. There's some 7 inches. And I'll show you, normally this wall is full of parts ready to ship. I can't show you that. That's all records that have names on there that may not be public knowledge yet. But basically, after it's all said and done, this is our final product. This is a stamper right here. Take this out here. This is a stamper that's formed. This is a scrapper, of course, and it has ridges on it. So it goes from lacquer that has grooves, basically to this that has ridges. This gets put on a press at a pressing plant, like this. Hot vinyl goes on there, gets squeezed, and those ridges form grooves into a vinyl record. So there's a few more steps to that. Oh, hi, Kyle. I didn't see your name. If I would have said hi, as proof of me saying hi. So that gives us the ability to do mass production. So this facility here, we've got 16 of these stations. So we can do enough stampers per month to make about 600,000 records. And a busy pressing plant does, well, I'm not sure what pressing plants do, but we do a lot of them because we work with several plants. So we've got a cooling system that keeps this stuff cool. That's full of cold water that gets pumped around. We have all the water that's back here is deionized. That's our deionized water system, and it flows through these special conduit, these gray ones right there. And this is my favorite thing. This is our new toy. We take old water that we can't dump down the drain, and this pump pumps it through these filters in real time and comes out just about tap water that you could drink. I don't drink it though, but we can dump it down the drain that way. So that we're really eco-friendly here. A lot of people think that nickel plating is dangerous. That comes from chrome plating, which we don't do. So our only byproduct here in the air is just water, a lot of humidity from evaporation. We've got filters everywhere, so it's a real clean environment. So we're the only place in the country, like I said earlier, you can send a WAV file and we can ship metal stampers, which is really important for two reasons. One, it allows our pressing plants clients to have a really streamlined operation. They can just email us and send us digital files and we can send them metal parts, and the quality is higher because lacquers don't travel long distances over days and days. They get cut or brought here from the awesome cutting houses in town like Sterling and Infrasonic and NRP, and we process them that same day or the next day, very next day. So the high frequency content is retained because lacquers are actually really soft, and there's a term called springback where once that groove is cut, the lacquer wants to go back to its original form, which was no groove in it. And the first thing to dissipate is the high frequencies. So once we capture that lacquer in metal, no further change goes. So these sitting right here the quality is locked in, and they can sit here until we can come back to work, and nothing will change. So that's the tour of Welcome to 1979. There may be more questions. So I'm going to walk back in the control room and sit down and have Yoli join in if she can, and we'll answer a couple more questions. What does it cost to send you a WAV file and have you make a stamper? Great question, John. That is a Yoli question. She is the business. The nice thing is, it's whatever the cost is that Yoli say, it's actually less because there's no shipping involved. We don't have to ship lacquer somewhere and all that. So, Yoli, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Awesome.
No.
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, John. Thanks for asking. So to go from wave file to lacquer to a single set of stampers, the cost is $680. That includes, like I said, lacquer cutting, two-step plating, and a single set of stampers to go to your pressing plant. As Chris probably mentioned when I wasn't really quite listening to everything you said, but we're the only place in the country where you can go from wave file all the way through the stampers and get it out in the same facility.
Yeah. And the thing to remember is, like the electroplating process kind of has to happen no matter what. So if you have a vinyl mastering house you like, we interface with them really easily too. So you can pick and choose who does what. And we become the preferred vendor for a lot of people that are concerned with the sound of records. So I didn't show you the QC room, but we've got to set up a couple turntables where we can play a metal mother and a reference, like a test pressing, and compare them and send WAV files to people. So we're really keen on quality control and comparing things and finding out where problems might have arose and getting to the root of the problem quickly. So.
Mm-hmm. If we do another one that's more detailed on the vinyl side of things, we'll bring in Sarah Matlock, who really runs the daily operations in there, and Isaac Finley, who handles the production floor.
Yep.
And they can do a lot more of the day-to-day and the technical questions.
Yeah. Well, what do you think your top two most frequently asked questions are, Yoli, on the vinyl side?
Oh, God, that's a hard question. Probably how long is this going to take?
Like what?
What? The question is how long is this going to take? And we do guarantee a 10 business day turnaround time from WAV file to stamper shipping, so that it's all, we try to keep it all predictable.
Yep.
I don't know. I get a lot of different varied questions. I'm not sure what my other most common one would be. Just a lot of questions about people who don't understand the process, who don't know the difference between a lacquer and a stamper and what's actually happening, and
Yeah, and it's a complicated process. We actually made a glossary of terms. So if you have questions, or if you're about to do an album when all the smoke clears from the crisis, just email us now and we can send you that document and you can learn what each one does. It's just a real simple glossary of terms. It's it's an interesting process. A lot of people, call us and say, "Hey, pardon the ignorance. I'm sorry," but we say, "Don't worry about it." John says, "Do we get inspected by EPA or other regulators?" Of course. Yeah, we're a.
yeah,
What's that?
we get inspected by the air quality department, which is under Public Health. Metro Water Services comes in to make sure that we're not dumping stuff down the drain we're not supposed to be dumping. So, yeah, a couple of different departments that come in to make sure really just annual reporting. And like I said, it's mostly very safe in there. So we're very low on the radar, right? We're not doing a high output of anything. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, we're taking pure nickel in a pellet form and making pure nickel in a flat stamper form. So that's what we do, and there really aren't any huge byproducts of that. The green liquid you saw is a lifetime purchase. We maintain that in there. It doesn't get dumped out and refilled. But yeah, safety is, at our forefront. When we do get inspected and they make suggestions, we don't just do the minimum. We actually installed a shower, like an emergency shower, even though they recommended an eye wash station and maybe a shower. We're like, well, let's just get the shower too. We really couldn't foresee a reason we needed it, but why not? You know, so it's not as toxic as people think. When we're working back there busy, you walk in, you can't tell busy versus not in the air quality and all that kind of stuff. So, a question I get, and Maggie got it via a question, was lacquer supply. Yes, you can still get records pressed. It may take a little bit longer, but everyone I know is still pressing records as a result of a little bit less lacquers on the market. So, and we anticipate that to be solved sooner than later. So, make music and we'll make records, no matter what. So
I just popped that comment up there from the self-esteem.
Gotcha. Cool. Are there any other questions, Yoli?
More from John. He would like to be an intern.
We believe it or not, John, we run things old school here. We have one intern at a time. They have to be going to school for, and their internship has to be for college credit. We like to get them at the end of their college career, their last quarter or semester. That way, if we like them, we can hire them and put them to work and use them. Most of the time, our interns, if they're good, we start paying them prior to the end of their internship. And if they're not good, they typically don't do their whole internship here. Our goal with interns is to create people that we can use on our team and get them into the industry. So that's why we have one at a time. That way, if you're on every session, you're a part of the building, you help with our projects, our improvements, and you learn the building as you do that. So, and if for some reason we can't take you on as an intern, you can use this as a reference as you job search, and we don't do that a lot. So a reference from a place you had an internship is a good thing, I think. So, and we've placed ex-interns at places we try to help out. If you're a good egg, we want you to be in the industry helping us or our friends, for sure. What makes a good intern? It's a good question, John. I can't control what somebody knows or what they were taught. I think being the desire to be involved is the root for all of us here. If you want to be involved, then all the other things are going to stack into place. You're going to learn faster. You're going to pay attention. You're going to be on time, and none of those things cost money. It doesn't cost money to want to be involved. It doesn't cost money to be on time. So that's what we look at. If an intern doesn't make it here, it pretty much stems from lack of caring and lack of involvement. Kind of staring off during sessions and stuff like that. So. Yoli, do you have anything that you see on your screen or that popped into your mind we haven't covered?
No, I think that about covers it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think John really wants his internship, and I think he's got the information he needs. He's got a glowing recommendation here from Gary.
Yeah. John, for those who don't know who John Crivet is, one, you're missing out on a really cool guy. Two, he's an advocate for education. He runs a website called Hey Audio Student, and his questions were for potential interns or college students watching this, and he's very good at connecting people and looking out for students entering the workforce. So we love John for sure, and Gary too. I saw Gary Gottlieb pop in there. So, well, I want to thank everyone for showing up. We miss you. This place is built for tracking musicians and building community, and it's been mixed emotions walking around an empty studio without staff. but I'm glad it was for a reason like this. And as we've mentioned a few times, we're going to use this as a platform. We'll smooth it out. Thank you for sticking around for some technical difficulties. Sorry we're late, but we want to do this more. And I'm going to grab some bands I've worked with and do chats with them about the process and hopes and fears and successes and all that kind of stuff. And just, show you what we do and how we do it. So when you're ready to do it, you'll think of us is really all is the plan right now, right? Every day is a new plan. What do you think, Yoli? You in good spirits?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And as you met, we've got the best people around. Our whole crew is great, and we hope you get to meet more as this goes on. Hopefully we'll be back to work tomorrow, but we're all doing our part for safety and for the society. So we're just taking a break, and this is the last time you'll see it, and I'll see it for a while. So thanks again for chiming in. I didn't go down the slide. I was scared to lose the feed. So we had a request early on to go down the slide. So everyone be safe, and look for our future events. Okay, and hit us up with any questions. I know musicians aren't in work right now. We're not trying to do that, but if you are at home and you have the means and you're working on music, you saw a few ways we can still work together, and we'd love to do that. So, and if we can help in any way, hit us up. Right, Yoli?
And there may have been meaningful questions in the feed that we missed, and we'll definitely go back through and put an answer in on our Facebook page to those questions. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Don't leave you hanging.
Yeah, and if there's any feedback on how we could do this better, let us know too. Shoot us an email, shoot us a comment. Okay. So, yeah, and we can still do transfers. We've already had a lot of transfers come in. Just at the end of last week, people are at home looking at their old tapes. We can take care of those remotely, or at least get them in our queue. Jeremy brought home some dehydrators and a tape machine so we can get tapes exercised and worked on and ready to transfer when all this blows over. And we can do the analog anywhere and all that kind of stuff. So don't want to get too salesy. We know a lot of people are uncertain, but if making music makes you feel better and you have the means, let's do it. We could use the support since we can't work. So cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Right, Yoli, sign off.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.